If having to study hard at college and trying to land a job afterwards made your early and mid-20s nightmarish, find some comfort by thinking how it could be worse. Elizabeth worse. She inherited the throne when she was 25, and from day one she had to think about how to protect herself and her country from a religious civil war, potential invaders, and a full-scale economic crisis. Being a queen ought to be cool with all the feasting and dancing, right? So how did she find herself in this heap of trouble, and what kinds of problems did she have to solve? Well, firstly, there were the problems caused by two Marys. Her predecessor and her half-sister, Mary I, had not appreciated her father's Protestant ideas and ruled with an iron fist in favor of the Catholic faith. The level of the oppression of her rule was so severe that she came to be known as Bloody Mary. She left a country full of religious tension for her half-sister. Elizabeth was a Protestant, and almost all those who supported her were also Protestants. After her ascension to the throne, she attracted the hostile attention of both Catholics and radical Protestant Puritans. Catholics were not happy with some of the most important lands and waters in Europe being ruled by Protestants, and the radical Puritans were not happy with moderate and tolerant policies of Elizabeth towards Catholics. In the north, trouble was brewing. Her relative Mary, the Queen of the Scots, was tied to French royalty through bonds of marriage. A French-Scottish alliance was a centuries-old nightmare for the English, and that nightmare would also haunt Elizabeth. When Elizabeth was crowned the Queen of England, her initial ally was King Philip of Spain. Yet, their alliance was very questionable, since one of the first things Elizabeth did was to establish herself as the supreme governess of the Church of England instead of bowing down to the Catholic Church. This was a big deal for Philip, as he was a staunch Catholic, and Spain was one of the superpowers of the time. It wasn't an empire that you would like to mess with. So, how did Elizabeth manage to survive and thrive under such grave conditions? Well, first of all, she knew exactly when to do nothing. Elizabeth was cautious, sometimes so cautious that she would be criticized by those around her. She had most probably understood that Britain and Europe at that time was a powder keg, and she had no intention of approaching it with fire in her hands. She had fully comprehended the fact that everything had to be balanced for her country and authority to overcome numerous quite complicated obstacles. Most of the wars she waged were indeed defensive, but she had an infamously aggressive strategy when it came to the sea. With her great vision, she had understood that England must look to the waves to climb out the deep hole she had fallen into. Her vision would especially come in handy when a war broke out between her and her old ally, King Philip of Spain. She supported a group of seafarers, explorers, and pirates. It was actually a win-win deal. The pirates would have the Queen's protection and a good amount of the plunder, while the Queen would use their skills and knowledge to expand her kingdom's trade routes and instill fear into her enemies' hearts at seas. The notorious East India Trading Company and seafarers like Sir Francis Drake, who circumnavigated the globe, flourished under her rule. One of the most action-packed moments of Elizabeth's life has actually a lot to do with Francis Drake. Aside from being an amazing explorer and a skilled seafarer, Drake was also a pirate. He would ride the waves around the coasts of America to raid the Spanish ports, steal the treasures they had collected, and destroy their ships. He came to be known as the thief of the unknown world by the Spanish. Drake's expeditions and raids eventually became so annoying and frustrating for Philip that he flipped out and started believing that going to Britain with a huge armada and tens of thousands of men and rooting out the filthy heretic pirate bands of the Virgin Queen was a good idea. Of course, Philip had other incentives. The Catholic mother figure of the British Isles, Mary of Scots, had been executed after inciting several rebellions against Elizabeth's rule. Mary was seen as the true heir to the throne by the Catholic nations of Europe, and her execution was seen as Elizabeth's intention to keep on moving forward along the path of Protestant heresy. The Spanish plan was to call every available ship to mainland Spain, overcome the English defenses, and land on British soil with their battle-hardened veterans who had fought in the Netherlands against the Protestants. And the notorious Duke of Parma, Alexander, would lead them. The English, of course, made their own preparations. An army of 20,000 gathered around Tilbury. Remember how Aragorn made a speech for his army before they stormed the Black Gates of Mordor to save time for Frodo? Elizabeth's speech was not less impressive. She cried out, "Let tyrants fear! I have come amongst you, as you see, resolved, in the midst and heat of the battle, to live and die amongst you all, to lay down for my God, and for my kingdom, and for my people, my honor and my blood, even in the dust. I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." Philip's main intention was to make this decisive battle a land battle. He wanted to use his armada like an armed transport which would ensure the safety of his men. The Spanish armada was to meet with Duke of Parma's veterans and provide them with the transportation they needed. Yet, the ships could not approach the ports as those who built the ships did not make any calculations considering the depth of water against the deep draft of the vessels. They were, in a way, stuck at sea. The English, being witty seafarers, had a great idea. They tied barrels of flammable and combustible oils and kegs of powder to ships, pointed and sailed them towards the armada, and set them on fire at the right moment. The fire ships took 4 Spanish ships down, damaged many of them, and caused panic among the Spaniards. An array of burning Ghost Rider-like ships, combined with northern weather, scattered the armada and provided the English with a miraculous victory. The victory further empowered the image of the Virgin Queen. In the year following the victory, Edmund Spenser published the first 3 books of Faerie Queene. In his work, Spenser glorified Elizabeth as a fantastic figure, who ruled over her lands with benevolence and glory. The Queen would live another 15 years. She was able to transform the wreckage she had inherited into a proper kingdom. In 1603, Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, after whom an era was named, died without an heir.